Gather round the historical hearth, one and all. Let us recall a time when America was not the nation of merely the Republican and Democratic parties, where there are groups such as the Whigs, the Nullifier Party, the Free Soil Party, the Moderate Party, most of whom just sat around the House contemplating their navels, the Marijuana Reform Party, which advocated a crate of Cheetos in every household every month, the Looking Back Party that was forced to abandon their efforts when their sole remaining rear-view mirror broke, and the Anti-Monopoly Party, which people thought was all about stopping big influence of big business, but was actually formed to rid the world of a board game where the Milton Bradley Company would not stock plenty of little silver race cars so you could order a new one when you lost the original. All have gone the way of the white-powdered Whig on the Senate floor, which may be the same fate as the elephant and the donkey will face sooner than they might expect. Crash the phone lines right now. Get in line. 1-877-NEWSMAX. 1-877-NEWSMAX. We'll add your voice in moments if you're lucky enough to be chosen. And tell us if you believe the time has come for both Republicans and Democrats to be taken down enough notches to make them much less powerful than they are right now. Welcome back. Presidential historian, New York Times bestselling author of Last Act, The Final Years and Emerging Legacy of Ronald Reagan, Craig Shirley. Craig, let's dive into this now with regard to third parties. I just mentioned a bunch of them.
I have to tell you, I'm always the battleship in Monopoly.
Well, that just goes to show that you need some help, young man, because if you are not either the terrier or the race car, then you lose.
Whenever I play my children, I'm always the battleship.
I'm still looking for the race car, too. It's gone after all those years, and you couldn't order another one. See, now that's the problem with America right there.
It's a national tragedy.
Okay, here we go. Third party here. I just mentioned some of them. If you go look in the pages of history, you will find voluminous numbers of third parties that have been out there for America. Why have none of them succeeded if we keep hearing that, yes, we want more choices?
Because most of them, actually, that's a great question. Most of them, I think, flame up with the passion of the time, whether, like the Anti-Masonic Party, which burned very brightly, white hot, in the 1820s and 1830s. They actually elected a congressman. They elected at least one governor. They had a hand in the election of one president, and then it just burned out. Most of them, I think, are populist uprisings, whether it's prohibition or whatever else, that then their issue or issue cluster is then seen by the other two parties and incorporated into their own message, and then the reason for the third party movement becomes moot. Ross Perot, proved it in 1992. He got 19%, but a lot of his reforms were actually incorporated in both the Republican and Democratic parties in subsequent legislative actions.
But you just said a phrase in there that caught my attention: passion of the time. In my lifetime, I have never seen such passion when it comes down to both the love of Donald Trump and the hate of both Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton. Never before have I seen this. So if we're going to talk about a populist movement, aren't we in the perfect incubation time right now more than any other time in history?
I'm not so sure. There's been a lot of passion in our lifetime. So there was the passion of the anti-war movement. There was the passion of conservative upheaval and reform of the 1970s and 1980s. We've had passion for war. We've had passion against war. We've had passion after 9/11. Not all of it is always channeled into electoral politics, but America is by and large governed by passion, which then becomes more reason and more nuanced.
Okay, but let me stop you there then. If you say, and I don't want to interrupt, but you caught something there. If we're governed by passion, which I think is a great thing to say, the passion that is out there right now, the anger at Washington, the anger at politicians, the anger people have at themselves for continuing to elect the clowns and put them into the Beltway is palpable. It's never been like this before.
Oh no, I think you're right. I think that there's a populist uprising out there. There's a populist anger, a revulsion toward the political system like we've never seen before. And this is broad-based, where, say, the Vietnam War was about the war, or some of the issue was what is different about this is that most third parties ride one or two issue clusters. This is broad-based. This is a pox on all their houses, a pox on Washington, a pox on New York. Anything that comes out of New York, Washington, Los Angeles is to be held in contempt or be held at least suspiciously. So I think you're absolutely right. I think this is more broad-based and more passionate and more accusatory in a way than we've seen in our lifetimes.
If you want to join us, 1-877-NEWSMAX, 1-877-NEWSMAX. Let's then look at the parties we have right now, Republican and Democrat. With all the talk out there of a potential third-party candidate, with all the talk about wanting somebody else to get involved, with the Green Party actually thinking they have a chance, 21% of people saying that they would possibly vote for another candidate, a different candidate. Are we looking at a time where the power, the political power of Republicans and Democrats has plateaued or is about to plateau to where maybe they've got as big as they can get?
I don't think there's any doubt about it, is that they've both plateaued. And part of it is a function of both the unpopularity of both Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump. You know, there's an interesting dynamic. Actually, there's a lot of interesting dynamics being played out in this election, Ed. But one of them is that it's election between, in a way, the republic, of which we've had for 230 years, and the oligarchy, which has emerged since the New Deal, and which Hillary Clinton represents. An oligarchy, to maintain power, must use patronage and corruption to stay in power. And that's kind of the modern Democratic Party and the big government Republican Party. Trump is that you would not normally associate the word virtue with him. But he is, in a way, the virtuous candidate, because for a republic to survive, it derives virtue from, of course, Judeo-Christian traditions, and the sense of right and wrong. And so Trump, in a way, whether or not you would agree that he is a virtuous man, is nonetheless leading a virtuous movement of Judeo-Christian Republican anti-corruption ethics against Hillary Clinton's oligarchy.
Would you also then agree that if we are in agreement that the plateau's been reached, or it is about to be reached, that we are looking at both parties, the leadership of the Republican Party and the Democratic Party, who don't see it, who won't see it, who are completely and absolutely Helen Keller, Jose Feliciano blind when it comes to seeing what's coming in front of them right now? The truck is there, the headlights are on, the train's coming at them, and they don't want to see it. They refuse. It's not happening. It's like fingers in the ear right now. La, la, la. I don't hear anything that's happening.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I don't think there's any doubt about it, is that the leadership which is why Trump emerged, because, in June of last year, he was at 2%. Everybody, Scott Walker, Jeb Bush, everybody in the world, Rick Santorum, everybody was ahead of him in the polls, and yet he emerged. Why? Because he saw and felt and understood what was going on in this country better than 16 other aspirants for the Republican nomination. Whether or not he can complete it beyond the nomination and win the election, we don't know. We don't have the newspapers of the day after the election. But I do know is that he is the candidate of change, and Hillary Clinton is the candidate of the status quo. And right now, this country wants change.
1-877-NEWSMAX if you want to weigh in. But here's the other thing. A third-party candidate is out there. The Green Party can get involved. Other parties can get involved. But is it fair to say that even though we've got polls out there that say that people want it, it's just not going to happen? It's just not there right now. And a big reason is Republicans and Democrats have more money than anybody else, and they can make it stick. And that money then sticks in the media's craw, because the media can help make or break you. And right now, as far as they're concerned, the Green Party to them could be a bunch of people out smoking marijuana in the weekend weed somewhere, because they don't know who they are or what they are, and they don't want to know.
Well, there's always that matter when you go into the election booth, is that the little Jiminy Cricket on your shoulder is saying to you, do you want to throw away your vote? Do you want to vote your principles and throw away your vote? Or do you want to have a hand in electing the next president of the United States, or stopping the other individual from being elected? That's always an issue. But, you think about 1980 is that you had the incumbent Jimmy Carter. A lot of people found him, wasn't up to the job, but he was still a competent, decent man, against Ronald Reagan, who'd been 2 terms governor, and yet still 7% of the American electorate chose to vote for John Anderson, who was the least qualified of the 3. And Ross Perot was probably the least qualified, was definitely the least qualified of the 3. And yet he got 19% against Bill Clinton and George H.W. Bush. So, but you're absolutely right. This is the most fickle electorate I've ever seen, is that third-party candidates could have a direct bearing on the outcome of this election, certainly the electoral outcome. and it's just going to be this is going to be one for the books, Ed. This really is. We've never seen it before in the history of the Republic.
And we got a long way to go to get there. Craig Shirley, it's always a pleasure. Thanks so much for joining us. We're going to talk about a man of real courage next. Now this promotional message. To America, he was the great communicator, but to Michael Reagan, he was Dad. Discover the strength, integrity, and faith of Ronald Reagan through the stories found in Michael Reagan's new best-selling book, Lessons My Father Taught Me. Inside Michael's stories exhibit Ronald Reagan's true character, his private life, the way he really was with his family. Lessons My Father Taught Me shows how Ronald Reagan lived life the way we all aspire to live. And the lessons Michael learned from his dad are written to both inspire and entertain. This compelling book belongs in the home of every conservative American, not only for its very personal look into the life of the nation's greatest conservative president, but for the lessons it shares that apply to everyday life. The book's available at Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and bookstores everywhere. Get your copy today wherever books are sold. Learn more about the man, not just the president, not the actor, but the man and what he meant. Lessons My Father Taught Me, now available everywhere books are sold.